Hey, everybody, welcome to the Right with Mrs. Brown podcast. I'm Mrs. Brown, and I love to help homeschooling families turn their children into exceptional writers. And today, I am so excited to introduce you to one of my favorite families in my writing community, the McCrackens. So, welcome. I'm so glad to have you all here today.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for being on. I'm going to start by just having you all introduce yourselves, just your name, where you are in the world, and then we'll dive into some questions that I think will really help the listeners of this podcast as they are supporting their children on their journey of writing. So who wants to go first?
Perfect. Well, I'll go first. My name is Cale McCracken, and I'm a homeschool student here in Ohio.
And my name is Casey McCracken, and I am the mother of 3 boys, ages 4, 9, and 15.
My name is Christopher McCracken. I'm Kale's dad, and happy to be here with you this morning.
Awesome. Well, welcome. I'm so glad that you all are here. So I will be asking questions, and feel free to just jump in if there's something you want to add. But I'll start with you, Kale, because I know a lot of students are listening with their parents. How long have you been using IEW? And IEW stands for the Institute for Excellence in Writing. Kale knows this, but just in case you're listening, you're like, what am I using? It's been 4 years. I have no idea. Kale knows this, but this is the curriculum that I use as the foundation to build those foundational writing skills. And so, Kale, can you tell us a little bit about how long you have been using the Institute for Excellence in Writing?
Yes, so I've been using IEW curriculum for 5 years, and then I've used it 4 years through Mrs. Brown, and I've done 1B, 2B, U.S. history, medieval history, and then this year doing 1C.
And public speaking.
And public speaking, and I did public speaking this year as well.
That's right, because IEW just released about a year and a half ago, roughly, their new public speaking program. We're going to get to that because I have some great news. Well, Kale, I'm going to let Kale give up the great news about public speaking and all that they have to offer. And I'm going to hop over because, again, you mentioned having multiple children, multiple ages, Casey and Christopher. Can you talk about, outside of Kale's use of IEW, how long have you all been using it, even with your other children, your other boys?
Since Kayla is our oldest, it's been 5 years total, and then this last year was the first year using it with our 9-year-old, and we're currently working through the Bible Heroes.
Awesome, very good. So I'm going to go to Kale again first. You said 5 years, right? 5 years of IEW. So how have you grown? So I want you to kind of take a trip down memory lane long, long ago, back in the beginning when you were the 9-year-old. And I want you to think about what are the ways that you've seen yourself grow as a writer.
Yeah, well, let's see. Well, back when I was 9, I started IEW, and my mom came to me and she's like, "Okay, we're gonna do this writing course." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, like I'm pretty good at talking. Writing should be easy. It's just just put my words down on the paper." And when I started, like week 1, I realized how unstructured my writing was, and that I always had great ideas in my head, but it was getting them transferred to the paper that I just couldn't seem to figure it out. And aside from that, it was getting it down on the paper so that it made sense to other people, because it always made sense to me, and then mom would read it and be like, "Okay, I don't even know what this means." So I was very unstructured, very unorganized, and IEW has really allowed me to organize my thoughts on a piece of paper. And then additionally, it's kind of provided me with helpful tips, tricks, tools to enhance the ideas and thoughts that I'm able to transfer to the paper. So it's been very, very beneficial. And I know 5 years ago, if you told me that I was going to be sitting here today talking about how much I loved writing, I would have told you were insane, because I really had a strong dislike for writing, and IEW has definitely changed that for me.
Awesome. Well, when we talk about growth, that growth is something that doesn't happen in isolation, right? I always talk about how it takes a team effort. And so I love that both your mom and dad are here. And I know you've talked a lot about, even just in our conversations and study hall and things of that nature, about how your dad edits and what your mom does. And so I'd love for each of you, Christopher and Casey, to talk a little bit about what that growth has looked like from your perspective, from the parents' perspective, and then what is the role that you play? Because I think a lot of times parents, they're at a certain place and they want to be at the place where they're like, my child says they love writing. So talk about what that transformation looked like for you and what your role was. So who wants to go first? And I want to hear from both mom and dad, because I think your insight will be beneficial for all of us.
I'll go first because my family holds their breath when I speak publicly because they never know what I'm going to say. But from my perspective and looking at growth, it's very surprisingly, I saw the growth in his writing, but I saw the growth in his maturity. And that was very important to me. What I mean by that is 5 years ago when we started this journey, Kale's right. He was an excellent speaker. He started talking when he was 2 and hasn't stopped. And that was something that comes very natural to him. He's a true extrovert. He loves people. He loves meeting new people and interacting with them. He tries his best to learn from everyone. But at that point in time, he was not good at accepting constructive feedback or anything that maybe differed from his opinion. And as he admits easily now, oftentimes he struggled in getting those thoughts from his head to the paper in a way that other people could understand. And he would get very defensive. "No, Dad, that's not what it says. This is what I wrote." And I would say, "No, Kel, that's what it means to you." But as the reader, it's not coming across that way. And now, after 5 years, and him being 15 years old, maturing in his writing, maturing in his faith, maturing as a young man, he takes that feedback and he works with it and he builds on it, and he doesn't take it as an offense. He takes it as the people that are around me, helping me, love me, and they care about my success. And he is now very appreciative for all of your help, Mrs. Brown, for all of his mom's help. And even when I come in and give the final approval to go ahead and turn something in, whether it's in one of your classes or one of his college classes, we kind of do that final family check. And if we find little changes or edits, he's not offended by that. He takes the time to listen and hear what we're saying, know that we're coming from a place of love, and then makes those necessary changes. And it's been a wonderful opportunity, and we feel very blessed to have had the chance to watch that growth.
Oh my gosh, you have just given so many people hope. Me too, because I mean, I'm also a parent in this journey, and you brought up something that is so important. I mean, a lot of times we come to a curriculum or we're looking for things to help them with their writing, but you talking about the maturity, the learning to accept feedback. So there are so many more things that that we're investing in, and that we get a chance to see our children mature in. And I'm so glad that you brought up that piece, because that's a real piece that I think people struggle with and to work through. Ken, I want to hop over to you real quick, and then Casey, I want to have you share with parents like what your role is in helping Kale grow. But Kale, I'm curious, what can you think of a moment that helped you move from like being offended to accepting it as help and seeing feedback as love and appreciation from your parents?
Absolutely. There's one very specific memory that I have.
Oh,
So it was Valentine's Day, and I had procrastinated on a paper for a little while, and I hadn't even written my keyword outline yet. It was like I read the source text, maybe watched half of the video or something, and I remember going up to mom and I said, "Mom, it's Valentine's Day. Can I not write a keyword outline?" And she's like, "What do you mean?" And I said, "I just want to sit down and write my paper." And she said, "Sure, you can do that if if you really want to." So I went and I sat down and I wrote this paper, and it took a couple hours, and I read it over and I thought it was super, super good. And I went and read it to my dad, and he said, "Buddy, that's terrible." And usually, coming from dad, it's like, okay, like it's decent, but it's not perfect, right? So I took it to mom and I sat down and I said, "Okay, can you listen to this?" And she said, "Sure." So she sat down and I read the paper to her, and she said, "Buddy, I'm just going to be honest. You need to go sit down and restart that and write a keyword outline." And like I can remember when that happened, I was like, are you kidding me? Like I just sat down and did all of this, and you're going to tell me how bad it is and what I need to change? And then I remember, I think it was probably both of you guys, kind of just sat me down and they were like, "Look, we would rather see you sit down, work hard, take the criticism, take the advice, than go submit your paper and get a poor grade on it." And so it was right then when I really realized, like, okay, like they want me to do well. They want me to get good grades, be successful, and be a good writer. So that was definitely a specific time where like it really kind of dawned on me.
Thank you for sharing that. I think that's a great segue into Casey, you sharing, your role in Kale's growth, because there's those unseen moments, right? The ones that aren't on Pinterest and Instagram and all the places, right? Those unseen moments where we're building a cathedral little by little in small conversations in those moments at home. And so talk to me about your role in Kale's growth, and what you might want to say to a parent who might still be in struggling mode with their child.
So I would say I remember our very first year with IEW, and the learning curve was tough. I remember him crying a few times,
Multiple times.
figuring out
Crying.
it's the figuring out how the process works. It's the figuring out how to do the keyword outlines, how to write the source text. And so our first year, we didn't have Mrs. Brown's help, and we were we had a helper. It wasn't an amazing experience. It was more stressful than it was helpful. But I liked the curriculum, and I felt like, let's give this one more try. And then we found you. And when I say game changer, I'm not saying that like a catchphrase, like truly game changer. My role is the chaos coordinator, finding the resources that are going to work for my children, seeing that I like this curriculum, but I need help. We needed excitement, we needed encouragement, we needed accountability, and praying about that. I will say, before you do anything, always submit it to prayer. Ask the Lord for guidance and for help. He is so faithful. He led us to Mrs. Brown. And so I feel like one of my number one jobs in our homeschooling is finding resources that work for my kids. And this, paired with your classes, has been an incredible resource for us. Another role, we started with, I was very, very involved, helping with the keyword outline, giving a lot of ideas, reading a painfully boring sentence, and trying to be I'm much better about this now, but it was like, you didn't tell me anything in this sentence. There's no emotion. There was nothing. It was he had a lot of emotion and expression, but was keeping it all in his head and writing faster or thinking faster than he was writing.
It's emotionless ideas.
Yes, and it was very broad.
Exactly
And
what it
so
was.
my job over the years has been to ask good questions. Tell me more about that character. Tell me more about that topic. I'll pick out words that I'll want him to find a different word for. I will read a sentence and say, okay, I want you to hear me say the sentence in this tone, reading his paper back to him in a way that I feel more audiences would read it. And then he'll hear it. Oh, okay. I see how that sounds. And then helping him hear his paper, see his paper, look at it from a different perspective. And now 5 years later, here we are at 1C, and it's my job is, okay, when is this paper due? Read it to me, and I might change 2 things. He is completely independent. So for all the moms out there that are at those beginning levels, you cannot help too much. You are modeling by example. You're showing them how to ask the good questions. And then now he's to the point where he reads it and he's asking himself those questions. He's looking for words that he can change. It's that muscle memory. So trust the process.
I'm going to take one thing on to what Casey's talking about. We often, as parents, it's very, very challenging to differentiate between effort and results. And it's tough. When Kale talks about those moments of tears, those are feelings that we all shared. So maybe not all of us had tears in our eyes, but the the feelings when we know that there was a miss and we're back to the drawing board. And that became very real to us as we started in Kale's college journey this year, because when we looked at his work, we knew the hours that he had invested and we knew the effort that he put into those papers. But this was an online course with a professor that had never met him before, that didn't know him. So understanding that as this person is reading what's supposed to be college level work from a college student, and they see something that is subpar, the realization that they put in a lot of work is not going to be their first thought. It didn't render the results that we were looking for. Therefore, it would be challenging to expect a third party to understand that no, he really worked on this all week. So making that transition from appreciating the effort and seeing tremendous value in that to working towards better results is very, very difficult, because we don't want to see our kids hurting emotionally. But the best way that we can help them to overcome that is to prove to them that they can do it and they can be successful on their own. And they just need to go back and fix a few things, and not only show mom and dad how hard they worked, but that shows any professor in the country that they had a student that took their course very seriously and was willing to learn and grow from what they had to offer.
I love, there's so many nuggets of wisdom in all that you shared. Chaos coordinator, I think lots of moms can can relate to that title and basically doing that. I wonder how much that pays though. I got to put it in like the jobs site of like, how much does a chaos coordinator get paid? The art of asking great questions. I think again, that is so important to understand as we are trying to help our children grow. You can't help your child too much. I love that nugget of wisdom there. And then differentiating between effort and results. So good. So good. So I want to kind of move through, what has it been like being on my writing team? So I talk about there being kind of a triangle of support. We have excellent curriculum. You definitely want to have a great foundational curriculum. Excellent support as someone coming from the outside to support not only you as a parent, but also your student. And then obviously ensuring that you have as parents exactly what you need to help your child grow. So what was I want you to kind of expand on kind of game changer. And then Kayla, talk to me about your experience, because you all have kind of curated, I had an idea and then you all curated a whole another thing and made study hall like a whole epic event every week. So I love for either way, parents can talk about their experience having like full support, and then Kayla, you can talk about kind of what being on a writing team has done.
Yeah, you guys.
Okay, I'm totally going first because I want the most time. Excuse me.
You got leave me, but I got some stuff on my heart.
Oh, yeah.
Uh-oh. Now I'm holding my breath, right?
Every parent I meet, it's always, oh, I don't know what we're going to do for language arts. And I'm like,
Mrs. Brown, every time.
Answer every time. I can't tell you how many times I have sent someone your website.
Hundreds.
Or shown them, what Kale has been working on. I will say, number one, a blessing. Being on your writing team is a blessing. It's an answer to prayer. We commit everything to prayer in our home. And one of those was, Lord, help us find the right language arts, grammar, writing curriculum for our children. And the Lord led us straight to you. You are constantly encouraging, but you are offering healthy challenges. So you're not patting us on the back for not giving effort. You are acknowledging any effort given, and then you ask for a little more and a little more. And you do that with the students and the parents. And it's a way that your end goal, whether it's a mom, a dad, or a student, you're helping us grow. Whether it's, are you focusing on vocabulary this month? Giving us resources for writing, or just how to interact with our students. There's always a growth. There's always a challenge. And it all is just like surrounded by this bubble of positivity. everything that you say, it's just so positive. You're able to put a positive spin on everything. And I love that. And there, there's even been times that were super stressful and I was able to reach out to you and you offered like comfort and peace in the situation, especially with the public speaking context. And it even goes beyond that. It just feels like you're a part of our family, because for the big announcement that I'll let Kale make later, there was no way we were going to announce that to the family without you being there. And you couldn't be there physically, but you were there on, screen,
right?
on screen. And it meant so much to us to celebrate that moment with you. Your feedback's always constructive and it takes so much off my plate, because I know that we've got this, they're the team, but you're right there with me. You're there to be flexible. You're there to be helpful. You're there to be encouraging, all the way to your vocabulary resources that we're using for our 9-year-old. So, I mean, I love it. I can't say enough good things.
I can't even tell you how many times she's given the same exact speech to everyone she runs into.
So I just thank you. I could never thank you enough. Truly. I mean it with all my heart.
And I thank you all. I love how you all embody what it looks like to support your child, like what full support means. And I always say, I am so grateful to just be a part of the journey. And I know you all do the heavy lifting at home. And no one grows, like I said, in isolation and by themselves. And a child's growth is so dependent on the support that their parents provide. And you all are such a wonderful model of what that support produces as we, get a chance to talk to Kale. So Kale, why don't you tell, holding my breath a little bit, what it's like to be on my writing team? I don't know. I'm kind of afraid of what you'll say. You know what I'm probably thinking.
Well,
I know
so first
exactly
of all,
what you're
I want to
thinking.
add, can I add a favorite class story at the end of this? I have one in particular that just comes to mind immediately.
Do you give permission
Mrs.
to
Brown,
share
we've
that
got-
one class story?
You're allowed. I'm afraid of what it might be.
Okay, let me.
Oh, you know what it is.
First of all, though, I do want to say that the way that you conduct each class like really allows for such a supportive, encouraging atmosphere, like to grow in my writing abilities. So like I feel like everyone there is there to support each other, to lead each other, to grow each other, and it's like it's one community, if you would. But what's even more important to me is your support outside of class. So, we have class every week, we have study hall, but then after class, you're sending us links to sources, you're sending us, Kahoot games to play, you're sending us, all of the tools and resources that we need to be successful. So really your help outside of class is very important to me as well. And I feel like, there isn't a step of the way that you aren't there to support me. And I also thank my family as well, because having so many great role models and people to support me, it means a lot to me. And, it's allowed me to grow. And in class, like as far as the students go, I know I've been with pretty much the same group of students all the way through. Because once you're a Mrs. Brownie and you're kind of always
you're in there for life.
You're there till you can't anymore. So I've been with the same group, and I can't think of a time where it hasn't been just all smiles and fun, but like still working to try and get a common goal accomplished. And so I think it's great to have a group, a team of people that are there to support you. And it's like I feel comfortable showing up in my pajamas and setting up the computer and sharing my speech that I'm pretty sure is okay. And so that's just somewhere comfortable to learn and grow.
Yeah.
But I would say, so now for my class memories there.
Build on that before you tell the story. And the class relationships, because they chat outside of class. And a really cool thing, I was emailing one of the moms from class that Kale's been in class with for 4 years now. And we met them in person in North Carolina on vacation. And it was so cool. It was just really cool. We had a giant Mrs. Brown poster that we took a picture of. And it was really fun, but it connected other families together. And he talks to these other kids from different cultures, different beliefs, different backgrounds. And they're having discussions about their beliefs. They're having discussions about their culture. So he's exposed, homeschooling is so wonderful and such a blessing for that closeness. But now through your writing teams, he's exposed to different ideas, but in a very healthy environment, because these other students are able to communicate. They've been through the IEW. They have really good communication skills, so they can convey why they believe what they believe, maybe a different religion, a different faith, or a different culture or background. And so just the camaraderie and the community that's built, and it's been fun sometimes with the narratives.
Yeah.
They'll find out who's writing a paper about, I think, a refrigerator.
Yep.
And then Kale was like,
and a dishwasher.
yeah, and Kale's like, okay, you write about the refrigerator, I'll write from the dishwasher, and the stories like combined together. So I love that. It's the team effort. So now I'll let him share.
Yeah.
That's
So
one
okay.
story.
So there was one that was semester 1 of US history where our whole group, the goal was to get the worst picture of Mrs. Brown and have it your Zoom background. I don't know if you remember that.
I do.
I most certainly got the #1 best picture, and Mrs. Brown politely asked me to never show it. It was great, and I promise I never would. I still have it.
God.
But the great story is this: we were playing a Kahoot game.
Yes, this is it.
Okay, it was a great Kahoot. I'm pretty sure I was like first, second, maybe third, everyone's doing great. And then Mrs. Brown says, no, it was right before the Kahoot. She says, oh, I'm gonna add one more question. So she, type, okay, this is gonna be great. So then we get to the last question, and she's like, I expect everyone to get this right. And it says, true or false? Mrs. Brown loves to see her students succeed, and she is there to support them every step of the way. What did everyone do? They clicked true, false. It was false.
I was so shocked. I was like, I can't believe I didn't put the right answer as the right answer. And I'm like, no, the answer is true. They're like, Mrs. Brown. I was like, no, it's true. So yes, my Kahoot bloopers. I feel like I need to do a reel of like my Kahoot.
Yeah, Kahoot blooper.
Every week.
Yes, for sure.
Even when she says there isn't one, there's always a typo.
I'm like, I checked it, I tested it. Yes, Dean has said I need to have a Kahoot blooper reel. All right, let's get to the really exciting news that you all called me on FaceTime about. Well, you have so much exciting news. So first, let's talk about how you have been published, right? So we'll start with that. IEW, what I love about the Institute for Excellence in Writing, in particular when it comes to the core of curriculum, outside of just writing the papers, they give students the opportunity to be published in their digital magazine, and then they have a magazine that they publish once a year. That's a physical magazine. And Kale, you have been published in both the digital and the physical. So I want you to tell me what you felt, if you can even remember, because you've been published so many times, like what it felt like when you found out.
Yeah, I think I've been published like 4 times,
At least
like
4.
twice in print edition and a couple times in the digital.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't have an exact number, unfortunately. But I know
The most
every
exciting was
yeah. So there's
yeah.
one specific one. She was asking about the articles that have been
Yes.
published, and I would say
These are the 2 in the print.
yeah, okay, the Just a Little Boy and An Incredible Example. I think it was
Unit
like Ernest
3,
Shackleton, and then
it was like
I don't-
Maui.
yeah, it was
like
like-
Maui or
like a
something.
Maui paper
Yeah,
or
just a
something.
narrative. It was
It was a narrative paper, but every time it happens, like I feel like I always find out at like the worst time. Like I'm like right in the middle of something, and mom's like, "Oh my gosh, you got published," and it like doesn't like and so like I finish what I'm doing, and I walk in, and I'm like, "Wait a second, I got published," and she's like, "Yeah," like every time it just hit like it's a delayed reaction. But usually my first thought is like, "Seriously, like for real?" And then after it's confirmed to me that I've been published, I'm kind of surprised. I mean, very surprised, excited for sure.
What did that do how did you all feel, parents? I'm gonna go to Christopher on this one. How did you feel? It's kind of like second nature now, but I know there was like the first time and then there's multiple times after. But when we invest in our children and we are putting in that day-to-day, week-to-week work, and then we have a result that's a published piece of work. And I also want to say, Kale, you've been published outside of IW in another magazine as well. So like I'd love to hear from Dad on this. Like, how did you feel as a parent?
I think every time we go through the same range of emotions, excited and proud, and ultimately within 5 minutes, we all come back to the same place of gratitude. And we're so thankful for all of the support, for the opportunity that we have to use the curriculum from IW, and also just a tremendous amount of appreciation and thankfulness for you investing in Kale the way that you have. And no matter what goal he reaches, that's emotionally, that's the place we land as a family, is thankfulness and gratitude.
Love that.
Yep.
And being published outside of IW has been very, very incredible. And I've been able to how would I say it? Like I get a prompt from outside, and it's just like second nature to like, okay, organize my thoughts, write a keyword outline, transfer the keyword outline to the paper in sentences, add the dress ups. That's allowed me to like formulate such like high level papers, if you would, that I can submit to other places. And I know like one was for a trapping article, and I got a half a dozen free traps.
Yeah, that was awesome.
And then I think I've been published in like one other magazine that I may have got. I don't know if I got any for it or not.
And now his
There was
9-year-old
something,
brother
yeah.
was Kobe,
Yes.
was
Yes.
just published in a magazine last week. And it was exactly the same. We were so excited and joyful, and then within 5 minutes, just overwhelmed with thanksgiving and gratitude.
Yeah.
Certainly.
Yep,
Yeah,
agreed.
I love that. I love that. I was like, he's starting off with published. I was like, oh, okay, all right. I love that. Let's talk about, this was something that happened even after we scheduled this interview, that outside of being published in Magnum Opus Magazine and outside of Magnum Opus Magazine, and I appreciate you talking about the outside, because a lot of parents wonder, will this translate outside? Like, will this translate when they go to college and you're taking college classes? So the answer to that question is yes, all these skills will translate outside. One thing that was new last year and this year for IW is the public speaking competition, where they had not only the opportunity to be recognized, yes, they also had cash prizes. So why don't you share the exciting news about your experience with the public speaking curriculum, the program that you work through, and what I'll just stop there, and what exciting news you want to share about the end result.
So first, absolutely, IW helps everywhere. Absolutely,
Yeah.
everywhere. And you don't even know it, but then you realize like, oh, I learned that in IW, like super, super well. But when was that? It was within the last
It was in November.
November.
On a sunny
Okay.
day.
Yeah, a sunny day in November.
I love
Uh,
your descriptive
But
language. Right?
Mom was standing in the kitchen.
Yep,
and
he was standing in the kitchen.
gosh.
I was doing math, and I hear this like, and I'm like, what? And she's like,
Nothing.
nothing. And I'm like, no, what? She's like, nothing. And I'm like, no, what? And then so she said, Dad's on his way home.
I
We'll find out.
I called for a family meeting and
So
text messaged
Dad got
Mrs.
home.
Brown immediately.
Dad got home. Dad sat down. Mom stood up in the middle of the room and started FaceTiming someone. Well, I'm sitting at my desk. Mrs. Brown answers, and I'm like, what is going on? And then she announced to me, Dad, and Mrs. Brown that I had won $1,000 in the IW public speaking contest
Yes.
with my narrative speech. It was the first place narrative, and it was Odysseus and the Cyclops is what it was. And so I was
And I
absolutely shocked, obviously.
Mhm.
But again, like super grateful, very, very grateful.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the Lord gets all the glory, 100%. We prayed so much through that speech.
That was the worst.
It was
that
the
was the
worst.
worst one.
It
It was I couldn't get it. I
Yeah.
had very limited amount of time to write it. And then it was a matter of getting it recited. And I had one where I was super close. I think I was close to crying a couple times or whatever. I'd go sit down,
He
relax.
was
and
just
come back.
frustrated, and I just said, "Go and pray about this."
And then it
Go
was our
pray."
like literally I had to leave to go work on a farm for like a couple weeks, like in an hour. And it was like, okay, we have time for one more take, and that's like it. And if you don't get it, we'll use what we have.
Yeah.
And sure enough, that one take turned out perfect, and
Yeah.
we were able to submit that. And of
Yeah.
all of them, this was actually the one that I least expected
Yes.
to get anything. Yet
I agree.
thankfully, it was the highest prize value.
Yeah, it was like the Lord totally worked out. So he got $500, and I
$500.
got $500 in IEW credit, and spent half of
Yeah,
that
she just
during
sat
their
there
during
ordering
their
stuff.
Christmas sale. So it was perfect.
And this goes back really to one of my original comments. So much effort had gone into those videos and the structured story behind them.
Mhm.
And when he was so close, and I knew the effort, and I knew all the hours that had gone in, he came to me this one last time and said, "Oh my gosh, Dad, I made it to the last 30 seconds, and there's one jumbled word. What do you think?" And I said, "Let's watch it together." And we watched, and I said, right up until that point, it was awesome. And then there was a fumble, and I said, "Buddy, this isn't a winner. If you want to win, you got to go do it again. And if you're happy, I'm proud of you for what you've done to this point, but this won't win." And he said, "Yeah, I know." And went, and he mustered up everything that he had left in him, and he did it one last time. And he was blessed to reap the reward of that hard work, but he drove that extra mile to get the result.
Yes, after about 100 million takes, it's like, okay,
Yeah.
happiness, find the emotion inside of you. Let them out.
Yeah, but it just goes back to IEW and your class and your group. He got feedback in class. He knew the expectation and was just working towards that expectation. And everything that you put into it builds endurance, builds character, builds resilience. Like, and having that team behind you to do that is a huge part of it.
Thank you so much for sharing. This was so inspiring. So we have come to, I'm going to actually put your pieces in the show notes. So if someone wants to read the pieces where you've been published, I'll put those in the show notes. And once the link is nice and live for people to see your final winning speech, I will make sure I put that in the show notes. But I want you all to get ready for your I've Been Published scream. And this is something anybody can be a part of. We'll do it nice and loud. I was inspired by like watching or listening to Dave Ramsey all the time. And so I loved when they would have the I'm debt free scream. And I'm like, oh, I want to do something special for my students who have been published. You know, I'm excited about it. I know we're super proud of them. And I'm like, I am going to do podcast episodes where the entire family, because it is a team effort, as all of you have heard today, and as you all shared today, it's mom and dad and siblings and writing team and curriculum and coaching. All of these things work together to build these skills and to lead us to, at the end of the day, I love, Christopher, how you shared, it should all lead us to gratitude. I'm inspired by those words too, and reminded of that as well. So I'm going to count you down from 3, and then on 1, nice and loud, you all yell as loud as you can. I've been published. I feel like we need to add something to that. And I won $1,000. How about I've been published and I won $1,000?
All 3 do that. I've been published, and then I'll just be like, and I won $1,000.
Yeah. Ready?
She's
I
gonna
love
count.
that. Are y'all ready? I'm about to count it down.
Ready.
And 3, 2, 1.
I've been published, and I won $1,000.
I love it. Thank you so
Mrs.
much.
Brown, this email just hit my inbox before our battery dies.
Okay.
He just took the ACT with only IW stuff, IW grammar, IW writing. He is a freshman in high school, and he scored a 30.
Get out. Get
Just got it.
Oh my goodness. We need all kinds of screams. I've been published. I won $1,000. I got a 30 on my ACT. That
Yes.
is phenomenal. That is phenomenal.
Perfect timing. I so much wanted these scores to come in for this talk, and
Wow.
it was just now.
So if a parent is listening and they're wondering, like, will this work? The answer, what's the answer, Kale?
Okay. Absolutely, 100%, 1,000% yes. But my advice would be very simple for the student. Trust the process. You have to just use the curriculum resources to your advantage. They give you everything you need and more. Use those to your advantage. And especially when it comes to the magnum opus and being published, the editors are looking to see if you used the tools you provided them. That's what they want to see. So trust the process, and you will at some point enjoy writing and be very good at it.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Any last advice, parents, dad, mom, Casey, Christopher? Any last advice before we end this episode?
Just remember that you're all on the same team, that you're working together with your child. Don't work against each other. Be a good leader. Walk alongside them. Model the attitude that you want them to have, and they will have that.
Christopher, you want to wrap us up?
I agree with both of them. We're absolutely a team. This journey has been wonderful. I think you possibly downplay your role a little bit when you say it's a small part.
For sure.
You've had a tremendous impact on our family. I'm not sure Andrew Pudwa could come up with the words to thank you appropriately. I certainly cannot. We're just so grateful for the opportunity to have traveled this path alongside you.
Me too. Me too. I am so grateful as well. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. Always a pleasure talking to you all, and a pleasure again for you all to share your story. And I know that there will be hundreds, maybe thousands of people who will listen and who will be inspired over the years, who are on this journey with their children. So thank you so much for your wisdom, and thank you, Kale, for your story and inspiring the younger listeners as well.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Yeah,
I appreciate
thank
it.
you.